Yeah, it's mindset cafe, we all about that mindset. Gotta stay focused, never settle for less. It's all in your head, how you think you manifest. So get ready to rise, cause we about to be the best. Gotta switch it up, gotta break the old habits. Get your mind right, turn your dreams into habits. No negative vibes, only positive.
Some of you don't need another hype speech, so that's not what this is going to be today, right? You need to trust yourself again, because when self-trust is broken, every goal feels a little bit heavier than it should, right? You can have the plan, you can have the motivation, you can have the perfect podcast, the perfect book, the perfect strategy, the perfect workout program, but if deep down you don't believe you're actually going to follow through, everything feels a little bit shaky. And that's not a confidence problem, it's just a self-trust problem. That there's honestly a difference, right? Confidence says, I can do this. Self-trust says, will I actually do what I said I'm going to do, right? The second one matters more, and that's what we're going to dive into. But what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Mindset Cafe podcast. It's your boy, Devan, and today we are talking about why you still don't trust yourself, right? Not why you're not motivated, not why you need to, believe harder in yourself or anything like that. Not why you need to get more excited about whatever you're doing, right? We're talking about something a little bit deeper, right? And honestly, it's just because I've had a lot of these conversations lately, but it's more about self-trust. Even though confidence gets talked about more, self-trust is actually what moves the needle, right? Confidence talks, right? Self-trust executes. And a lot of people are walking around trying to build confidence on top of broken self-trust. And it does not work that way. Because if you keep breaking promises to yourself, more motivation isn't going to fix it. You need proof. You not emotion, but proof. And today I want to break down how self-trust gets damaged and how most people make it worse, right? But then honestly, how to rebuild it in a way that actually is going to last. So let's dive in a little bit, right? Self-trust is simple. It's the belief that you can actually rely on yourself. You believe you're actually going to do the things that you tell yourself you're going to do. That's it, plain and simple. It's not anything crazy, right? When you say you're going to do something, do you believe yourself when you tell it to yourself? Like, do you believe that, I'm going to go work out today? And do you know with 100% certainty that you're actually going to go work out? Or has there been a time where you tell yourself that and then all of a sudden you make an excuse or something comes up and it kind of seems like a repetitive problem, right? When you set a goal, do you trust that you're actually going to follow through with that goal? When you make a promise to yourself, do you take it seriously? A lot of people don't, and they know it deep down, but they don't want to admit it to themselves. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's fine if you don't want to admit it to yourself. You're only lying to yourself. That's the part that nobody wants to say out loud, is that they don't believe themselves. You can lie to other people, but you can't lie to yourself the same way. You know when you keep your word, and you know when you don't. You know when you say, I'll start Monday, and you don't truly mean it. You know when you set your alarm, and you already plan to snooze it. And honestly, that one, it's a big one for people. It's like, if you set your alarm at a certain time, your goal is to get up at that time, right? And I'm guilty of it as well on certain days where I'll have to set multiple alarms, not because I know I want to get up at a later time. My goal is to get up at the first alarm, but in case I don't, I need to make sure that I am up and moving and at work and stuff like that. So the issue isn't like if you set multiple alarms as almost like a fail safe, but if you're setting an alarm with the plan to snooze it one time or two times, like that's an issue, right? When you tell yourself, well, this is my last cheat meal, and then part of you knows, well, maybe it's not because, I got X, Y, and Z event coming up, right? Mother's Day that just passed. And every time you break that promise to yourself, it costs you something. Not just progress, but it costs you trust. And that's the real damage, right? Every broken promise teaches your brain, your subconscious, not to believe what you tell yourself. And once that happens, goals start to feel a little bit heavier, a little bit harder, because now you're not just trying to reach the goal, but you're also fighting the history of all the times you didn't follow through with it. And that's why some people feel tired before they even start, or they feel like the path is way more intense than it is even meant to be. They're not tired from the work. They're tired from not trusting themselves with the work ahead. And that's a different problem in and of itself. So let's talk about how self-trust gets broken, right? It usually doesn't happen from one big failure. It happens through small broken promises, right? Repeated over time. You say you're gonna wake up early, you don't. You say you're gonna go work out, you don't. You say you're going to make some sales calls today, you don't. You say you're done drinking during the week, you're not. You say you're going to stop spending money you don't have, you keep swiping. One broken promise may not seem like a big deal, but repeated broken promises start to become an identity to your subconscious, right? You stop seeing yourself as someone who follows through, and you start seeing yourself as someone who quote unquote tries, right? And that's one of the biggest things. Like, I hate when people say I'm going to try, right? There is no try. It's either you do it or you don't. I did it or I didn't. And that's what's dangerous, right? Because trying becomes a hiding place. I'm trying sounds noble, but at the same time, sometimes I'm trying just means I'm not committed enough to make it a non-negotiable. And honestly, that's the simple truth. And if that stings a little bit for you, fucking good, right? Maybe this is your wake-up call, because that is where change starts to happen. You don't need to rebuild self-trust by saying nicer things to yourself and saying affirmations in the mirror and all that other, BS. Like, you rebuild yourself by becoming someone who keeps their word to themselves, right? How can you keep your word to everyone else, but you lie to yourself? There's so many people that will not break a promise they've said out loud to Joe Schmo, but they break every single promise to themselves, right? You rebuild it by becoming someone who keeps their word, right? The small word, the small promise, the small proof, and repeated, right? That's how it comes back. Not one of those, one of the biggest ways people destroy their self-trust is constant self-negotiation, right? If you make a plan, then stick to the fucking plan, right? You make a plan, you start to debate the plan, right? You set a standard, then you start to negotiate the standard. You say you're gonna train or work out, then the voice comes in, well, maybe tomorrow, or I'm tired, or, well, you worked hard today, so you can have a rest day. One day a rest won't matter. You say you're gonna make the calls, then the little voice comes in, creeps in, maybe I'll make the calls a little bit later. Maybe I'll send some emails instead. Maybe work on the website first, or maybe I'll do a little bit more research. Every time you tell yourself one of these things and you let that voice win, you weaken your self-trust. That's it, right? Because now your word is not a decision, it's a suggestion. And that is a problem. Most people don't need more goals. They need they need fewer negotiations. When you negotiate with yourself every day, you're not going to trust yourself, because you never know which version of you is going to show up. The version that made the plan, or the version that is going to try to talk you out of it. That creates instability, and instability like that kills your momentum. So the first thing is, right, stop making promises you're not prepared to keep to yourself. It sounds simple, but it's a big shift. A lot of people make huge promises because they want to feel serious. I'm gonna start working out 6 days a week, or I'm gonna start waking up at 5 a.m. every single day, or I'm gonna make 100 calls this week. Or even I'm never eating junk food again. And it sounds strong, it sounds ambitious, but if you don't follow through with it, it damages that trust. Maybe start with a smaller promise that you can actually keep and work your way up to the bigger promise, right? So make smaller promises, because a smaller promise kept is better than a big promise broken, right? Because self-trust does not come from dramatic plans. It comes from completed promises. And that is why, I guess you call it like fantasy planning, is so dangerous. Because fantasy planning is when you design a version of your life that looks great on paper, or it sounds great, but there's no connection to your actual current habits. You plan the perfect morning routine or the perfect diet or perfect business schedule, the perfect content calendar you're gonna start posting on social media, the perfect workout split, whatever it may be. And for a few minutes, you feel productive because you just wrote this amazing plan out. But you haven't changed anything yet. You just created pressure on yourself. Now that plan is so big that if you miss one piece, you feel like you failed. Then you quit and you break another promise to yourself. And then the self-trust drops again. And that is the cycle, right? So fantasy planning gives you that feeling of change without any proof of you actually changing. And proof is what you actually need. If you are rebuilding your self-trust, stop trying to build the perfect overnight plan or overnight life. Build one clean promise, right? Just one, not 10. One promise you'll keep today, right? Maybe it's something like, I'm going to walk for 10 minutes, or I'm going to make 5 follow-up calls today, or I'll drink water before I have a cup of coffee. I'll go to bed 30 minutes earlier than I normally do. Something simple, right? I'll write down what I spent money on today, right? I won't hit snooze tomorrow, right? Something like that, small, clear, something that is winnable. And then you keep your promise to yourself. That is the work. So when you trust yourself again and you start showing yourself the proof that you can accomplish it, right? Life gets a little bit lighter, right? Not easier, but lighter. Because when you stop wasting the energy wondering if you're gonna show up, you stop needing to reset and restart every Monday. You stop needing to wait for the right mood, or you stop needing a motivational video to remind you why you started or who you are or whatever other BS you want to tell yourself, right? You just do what you said you're going to do. That creates inner peace, right? That creates confidence, real confidence, right? Not fake confidence, not loud confidence, but earned confidence. And earned confidence is quiet, right? It doesn't need to be announced, itself, because it has the receipts of your effort, of your work, right? It's like back in grade school when they made you show your work, and it was like, okay, well, yeah, the answer is the answer, and you showed your work, so I know you got there. Same thing, right? Because self-trust matters more than that motivation, which just gives you that hype, because that hype starts to fade. Motivation fades, right? But the work and the effort you put in are receipts, and those receipts stay. Every time you keep a promise, you add a receipt to your bucket of self-trust. Every time you break one, you also remove a receipt from that bucket. So I want you to ask yourself, what receipts do you have right now? The question you could ask yourself, do I have proof that I can trust myself? Or do I have proof that I keep folding, right? Or keep quitting? That is a question not meant to shame you, but honestly it's just meant as like a wake-up call, right? To give you a little bit of light on your current standing. Because if you want to trust yourself again, you have to start collecting the proof on purpose. Now, here's where a lot of people mess up though, right? They try to rebuild the self-trust with intensity. They get mad, they get fired up. They say, that's it, I'm done playing small, I'm done playing games, I'm all in, right? And then they try to change everything, and that usually doesn't last. Because when you're trying to, change everything at once, it is an abrupt change to your daily habits, and your body is going to want to resist. Your mind is going to want to resist. Because intensity is not the same thing as trust. Intensity can start something, but trust is built on that repetition, right? You don't need to trust yourself. You don't need to trust yourself because you had one strong day. You need to trust yourself because you have watched yourself keep going over and over and over again, regardless of what is happening. That is why consistency beats intensity when you are rebuilding your self-trust. A person who keeps one small promise every single day for 30 days, that trust within themselves will be more than a person who goes extreme for 3 days and disappears. There is a difference there, right? Most people want their dramatic comeback and they want that like huge comeback story. But self-trust usually is built in the boring places, right? The alarm clock, the gym bag, the sales calls, the meal prep, the bedtime, right? The calendar, your budget, your follow-ups, right? That's where your trust is rebuilt, not in your head, right? In your actions. So there's an emotional side to it though, right? Because when self-trust is broken, you start doubting everything. You doubt your goals, you doubt your discipline, your ability, your future. Sometimes the goal is not the issue. The plan is not the issue. The dream is not the issue. The issue is that you've just watched yourself quit too many times. So now your brain is trying to protect yourself from disappointment. And that's where you hesitate. That's where you overthink. And that's where you keep looking for a better plan, because part of you is scared to commit and fail again. And it makes sense, but you can't build a strong life by avoiding disappointment. You build a strong life by becoming reliable with yourself first. And that is the foundation, right? Before your team can trust you, before your clients can trust you, before your spouse can trust you, before your kids can trust you, you need to trust you. Because if you don't trust yourself, you will constantly look outside yourself for certainty. You will need other people to motivate you, other people to validate you, other people to hold you together. And that's not leadership. That is dependence. Self-trust is internal leadership, right? It is you providing or proving to yourself, right, that I can count on me, right? I'll bet on me, right? I always like to say, like, bet on yourself first. Now, I want to make it an important, distinction, right? Self-trust doesn't mean that you are perfect. It doesn't mean that you never mess up or never miss, a day. It doesn't mean that you always feel strong, right? Because that's not real life. Self-trust means when you miss, you come back the next day. You come back just as strong. That is the real standard. A trustworthy person is not someone who never slips. A trustworthy person is someone who does not turn a slip into a season of slips. If you miss one workout, you train the next day. If you overspend one day, you check the budget the next day. If you lose your temper, you own it and you repair whatever the situation was. If you fall off the plan, you get back on the plan, right? That is self-trust. It's not perfection, it's recovery speed, right? Self-trust is not perfection, it's recovery speed. Because the people who win are not the people who never miss, they're the people who don't let misses multiply. They don't let one bad meal become a bad weekend. Or they don't let one missed callback block them from, making more follow-ups. They don't let one bad morning become a lost week and having to start the next Monday. Right? They recover fast, and that is trust. That is trust that you are going to get back on the plan. You're going to get back on the wagon of your goal, right? So if you want to rebuild self-trust, here's the framework for yourself, right? 3 steps. Number 1, make smaller promises. Number 2, keep them. Number 3, track the proof. That's it. Make smaller promises, keep the promises, and track it, right? Most people skip step 1 and they make promises that are too big, and then they break them, they feel worse, and then they just repeat, right? Don't do that. Shrink the promises until it's almost impossible to mess up. If you have not worked out in months, don't promise yourself you're going to work out 6 days a week. Promise yourself 3 days a week or 2 days a week, right? If you go above and beyond it, awesome, right? If you haven't been making any sales calls, don't promise that you're going to make 50 in a day. Promise you're going to make 5 or 10, right? And if your mornings are a mess, don't promise yourself that you're going to hit the perfect routine. Promise one clean action. I'm going to wake up on time, or I'm going to make the bed. I'm going to wake up and drink a glass of water, right? Something like that. Small proofs create big trust over time. And that's how it works. Right? Keep the promise. No negotiations, no drama within yourself, right? No waiting until you feel like it. You said it, so fucking do it. That sounds pretty basic and pretty easy because it is, right? But basic works. And when you actually do it, You don't need to complicate it. You just do it, right? And that's what's going to rebuild the self-trust, right? And for tracking your proof, right, it's important because if you don't track it, your brain forgets it, right? You need the evidence, whether it's a check mark on a board, whether it's a note, a calendar, whatever the case may be, something you can actually see. Because the streak and seeing the streak, it's magic. That's why they put them in all the apps and stuff like that, and they give you a little leaderboard and so forth, right? Because when you can look back and see 10 days of kept promises, something changes in your mind, right? You start thinking, maybe I am becoming, someone that I can rely on. And that is powerful, right? That's what's earned. That's what you want. And that is where you get that earned belief, that earned trust, right? It's not going to be easy, right? But at the same time, it's one action. That's all you have to do, just one action, right? It's just creating a strategy for yourself, essentially, right? The goal is not to prove that you can resist every temptation. The goal is just to stop building your life around unnecessary temptations, right? So that's what I want you to try to do, right? I want you to try to, this week, set a list of small goals that are going to align with your or a set of small promises that are going to align with your goal, right? Follow through with them and then track them. That's it. I hope this episode helped you guys, and I hope honestly that you start to keep the promises to yourself and allow yourself to believe in yourself. It's one day at a time, but it will compound over time. And it gets easier to hold yourself accountable when you have the proof that I follow through with what I say I'm going to do, right? So realize it's a process and you can do it. So get to it. But I appreciate you guys. I love y'all. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
No negative vibes, only positive thoughts. Just in the game of life, mindset causes shots. Got my mind on the prize, I can't be distracted. I stay on my grind, no time to be slacking. I hustle harder, I go against